The smell of burning charcoal mixed with roasted fish filled the evening air. Smoke coiled into the sky as Adora, a 17-year-old orphan, sat by the roadside, fanning the flames beneath her small grey. Her hands, rough and stained with black soot, walked fast, flipping the fish with a skill only years of hardship could teach. Her stomach growled, but she ignored it. She hadn't eaten all day. The few naira in her pocket wasn't enough to buy food. She needed to save for tomorrow's fish. "Buy your fresh roasted fish," she called out, forcing a smile as she waved at passersby. Some stopped to buy, but many walked past, wrinkling their noses. "She stinks of smoke," a woman whispered to her friend. "Who will even marry such a girl?" Another laughed. "Poor thing, selling fish like her mother did before she died." Adora swallowed hard, their words cut deep, but she refused to let them see her pain. She had learned a long time ago that the world did not care about her tears. She looked up and saw two young girls, dressed neatly in their school uniform, giggling as they bought ice cream from a vendor nearby. Their shoes shone in the sunlight, their backpacks looked heavy with books. For a moment, Adora felt a deep ache in her chest. This could have been her. They should have been her. But life had taken everything from her. Her parents, her childhood, and even her dreams. Her hands tightened into fists. One day she would leave this place. Just as she wiped sweat from her face, with the back of her hand she noticed a sleek black car slowing down in front of her store. The door opened and a woman stepped out. She was tall, dressed in a long flowing gown, with high heels and clicked against the dusty ground. Dark sunglasses covered her eyes and gold bracelets jingled on her wrist as she walked towards Adora. Adora's heart pounded. Who was that woman? And why was she staring at her like that? The woman folded arms and studied her, Adora, for a long moment before speaking. "Young girl, I see something in you," she said, her voice calm but firm. Adora swallowed. "But what do you mean? What do you see in me?" And why did she suddenly feel like her life was about to change forever? Adora felt a shiver run down her spine. The woman before her looked like someone important, someone rich, someone powerful. But why was she interested in a poor fish seller like her? "Ma, do you want to buy fish?" Adora stammered, wiping her hands on her tattered wrapper. The woman smiled faintly. "No, child, I am not here for fish." She removed her sunglasses, revealing sharp eyes that held something Adora could not understand. "I have been watching you for a while now." Adora's heart skipped. "Watching her? You are different," the woman continued, stepping closer. "You work hard, yet you carry pain in your eyes. You don't beg and you don't complain, even when people insult you." She tilted her head. "Tell me, what do you want most in life?" Adora's throat felt dry. She had never been asked that question. People only saw her as a poor orphan girl who sold fish, not as someone who had dreams. She looked down at her cracked feet, then back at the woman. "I want to go to school," she whispered. The woman smiled again, but this time there was something knowing in her expression. "Good. Education is power." She paused and then said something that made Adora's leg go weak. "Come with me, I will change your life." Adora's breath caught in her throat. Come with her? Leave the street? Just like that? A thousand thoughts ran through her mind. Was this really a test? Was the woman real? The last time someone promised to help her, it ended in tears. The memory flashed before her eyes. The pastor's wife who once said, "Come and live with me, I will take care of you." Adora had been happy, thinking she had escaped suffering. But 3 months later, she was scrubbing floors, washing endless clothes and eating leftovers from the madam's table. And when she dared to ask about school, she was thrown out like a dog. Adora's clenched her fist. She wouldn't be fooled again. The woman must have noticed her hesitation because she signed and reached into her bag. She put out a card and placed it on the wooden table beside the fish. "Think about it," she said. "My name is Mrs. Williams. If you want a better life, find me." Then, without another word, she turned and walked back to her car. Adora watched as the car drove away, leaving behind a cloud of dust. She picked up the card with shaky hands. The letters on it were bold and clear. Williams Foundation for Girls. Changing lives, one girl at a time. Her heart pounded. Could this really be real? Could she finally have a chance to escape this life? She clawed the card tightly, feeling hope rise in her chest, until a rough hand snatched it from her fingers. Adora, who was that woman? She turned sharply, her stomach twisting. It was Mama Ife, the woman who owned the store next to her, a woman known for her sharp tongue and nosy ways. Dora tried to grab the card back, but Mama Ife held it out of reach. Squinting at the walls, then she let out a dry laugh. Eh? Williams Foundation. You think this rich woman will help a nobody like you? Don't be foolish, she threw the card at Adora's feet. People like us don't get miracles, girl. Focus on your fish and forget this nonsense. Adora bit her lip as Mama Ife walked away, still chuckling. She bent down and picked up the card, dusting it carefully. Deep inside, doubt crept into her heart. What if Mama Ife was right? What if this was just another lie? But then she looked at her dirty hands, her smoky clothes and the coins in her pocket that could barely feed her. She exhaled shakily. What if it wasn't a lie? That night, as Adora lay on her tin mat, staring at the dark ceiling of her one-room shack, she clawed the card close to her chest. Her heart whispered one thing over and over again. Should I take the risk, or will this be another heartbreak? As she lay on the bed, unable to sleep, the tiny room she called home was dark, except for the weak moonlight sneaking through the crack in the wooden walls. Ras crawled in the corner, searching for food she didn't have. Her fingers traced the edge of the card Mrs. Williams had given her. Could this really be her way out? But a voice inside her whispered, "Be careful, nothing good comes easy." She had trusted people before, and they had only used her. First the pastor's wife, then the seamstress who promised to train her but only made her work as a slave. What if Mrs. Williams was just another person who wanted to take advantage of her? She turned on her side and stared at the empty space where her mother used to sleep. A sudden wave of grief crashed over her. If only Mama were here. If only Papa hadn't died so early. Tears burned her eyes. She wiped them quickly. Crying wouldn't change anything. The next morning, she woke up before the sun rose. The streets were still quiet as she set up her grill by the roadside. As she arranged the fish, her heart was heavy. She needed to make a decision. Just then, a loud bang shook the air. A truck had swerved off the road and crashed into a small shop across the street. People screaming, running to help the shop owner. Adora stood frozen, watching the scene unfold. This could have been her store. That could have been her. What if today was her last day? Would she die selling fish, never knowing if she would have been something more? Her hands trembled as she pulled the card from her pocket and stared at it. This was a sign. It had to be. Without thinking twice, she grabbed her old bag, stuffed a few clothes inside, and took off running. Adora reached the Williams Foundation gate just as the sun was rising. The building was massive with high walls and a security guard at the entrance. She hesitated. Was she really supposed to be here? Taking a deep breath, she stepped forward. "Good morning, sir. I am here to see Mrs. Williams," she said, her voice shaking. The guard looked her up and down, his face filled with doubt. "Who are you?" "Adora. She gave me this card and told me to come." She held out the card, hoping it would be enough. The guard signed. "Wait here." He disappeared into the compound. Minutes later, Adora's heart pounded. What if this was a mistake? What if Mrs. Williams didn't remember her? Then the gate swung open. Mrs. Williams stood there, dressed in an elegant green gown. Her eyes softened as she saw Adora. "You came?" Adora nodded, her throat too tight to speak. Mrs. Williams smiled. "Come inside, child. We have a lot to talk about." Adora followed her through the grand gates, stepping into a world she had never known. She had no idea that stepping into the compound would be the biggest and the beginning of her most painful and dangerous journey of life. As she entered into the compound, it felt as though she was in another world. The air smelled fresh, not of smoke and burning charcoal, but of flowers and something expensive she couldn't name. The floor shone like glass and the walls stretched high, painting in colors too clean, too perfect, too different from the world she knew. Her legs trembled slightly as she walked behind Mrs. Williams, clutching her small bag tightly. The last time she entered a rich person's house, it had ended in tears. Would this be different? They stopped in a sitting room so loud that Adora felt lost. A chandelier hung from the ceiling, glittering like diamond. On the glass table sat a bowl of fruits, apple, bananas, and grapes. She had only tasted grape once in her life, and that was when a customer accidentally dropped some near her free store. "Sit down, child," Mrs. Williams said gently. Adora lowered herself onto the soft couch, but she was too tense to relax. Mrs. Williams studied her for a moment. "Tell me, Adora, how long have you been selling fish?" Adora swallowed. "Since I was 8. Mrs. Williams raised a brow. "8? That's too young for a child to walk." Adora forced a small smile. "I had no choice. When my parents died, I had to survive. A heavy silence filled the room. Mrs. Williams sighed, then leaned forward. Adora, what if I told you that life was more than the fish that you are selling? Ma? She blinked. You said you wanted to go to school. I can make this happen. The word hit Adora like a slap. She had dreamed of school for so long, but it had always felt impossible. Now here was the woman offering it like a gift. But why? Adora clenched her bag. Why are you helping me, Ma? Mrs. Williams smiled softly. Because I see something in you. Strength, determination. You remind me of someone I once knew. She paused. I run this foundation to help girls like you. Girls who deserve a better life, but have no one to give them such. Adora's chest tightened. A chance? Was this real? Mrs. Williams continued. But there is one thing you must understand, Adora. The journey won't be easy. There will be trials. People will still look down on you. And challenges will make you want to give up. She met Adora's eye. But are you ready to fight? I will stand by you. Adora felt her hands tremble. The words stirred something deep inside of her. Was she ready to fight for a better life? Was she ready to take this risk? Then she remembered Mama Ife's word. People like us don't get miracle. But what if this wasn't a miracle? What if this was the door she had been praying for? She lifted her head and met Mrs. Williams' gaze. I'm ready, Ma. Mrs. Williams smiled. Good. Your new life starts now. But not everyone was happy. That night, Adora lay in a soft bed, wrapped in clean blanket. It was the first time in years that she slept on something that wasn't hard mat, but she couldn't sleep. Something felt off. Maybe it was because everything still felt like a dream, or maybe it was because she felt eyes watching her. She sat up and turned towards the door. It was slightly open, and in the darkness, she saw a shadow, a figure standing there, silent still. A chill ran down her spine. Who was that? Her heartbeat pounded. He was tall, slim with smooth skin that showed she had never suffered under the sun, like Adora. Adora opened her mouth to speak, but before she could, the girl whispered, You don't belong here. Then, without another word, she turned and disappeared into the darkness. Adora swallowed hard. What did she mean? Why did it feel like she had just walked into a wall? She didn't understand. Adora sat on her bed, her heart hammering against her chest. You don't belong here. The girl's word echoed in her ears. What did she mean? Why did she say that? Slowly, Adora stood up and tiptoed to the door. She peeked into the dimly lit hallway, but the girl was gone. A strange feeling settled in her stomach. Was she already making enemies here? She turned back and lay on the bed, but sleep refused to come. Maybe coming here was a mistake. Maybe this new life wasn't going to be easy as she thought. The next morning, Adora dressed in a simple but clean clothes Mrs. Williams had given her and stepped out of her room. The mansion felt even bigger in daylight. The long hallways and polished floors had made her feel like a tiny fish in a vast ocean. She was supposed to meet Mrs. Williams in the dining room for breakfast, but as she walked down the corridor, she heard whispers. She stopped. That girl stinks of fish. A voice sneered. Adora's throat tightened. She's just a street girl. What is she even doing here? Another voice added. Laughter followed. Adora peered around the corner and saw three girls sitting on the couch, their faces full of disgust. One of them was the girl from last night. Adora stepped forward, forcing herself to stay calm. Good morning. The girl turned to her, their eyes filled with amusement. Oh, look, who decided to join the rich, one of them said with a fake smile. She had long braid and wore expensive jewelry. What does it feel like, street girl, sleeping on a bed for the first time? Adora's fist clenched. She had been insulted many times on the street, but this stung differently. I don't want trouble, Adora said softly. I just came here to learn. The girl from last night stepped forward. Her name, Adora, who later learned was Pamela. She crossed her arms and smiled. Listen, fish girl, this is not your word. You may have tricked Mrs. Williams into bringing you here, but we all know the truth. You are just a dirty orphan trying to steal what doesn't belong to you. The word sliced into Adora's heart like a blade. She had expected challenges, but she didn't think it would be too soon. The other girl, a light-skinned beauty named Vanessa, scolded, You better leave here while you still can. The place is not for people like you. Adora swallowed hard. Every part of her wanted to lash out, to defend herself, but she had learned one thing from the streets. Fighting with words wouldn't change people's mind. Only success would. So she forced a smile. Thank you for your advice, she said quietly. Then she turned and walked away, ignoring their mocking laughter. But inside, her heart burned. no matter what happened. She will prove them wrong. She will show them that her hands might smell of smoke, but her heart smelled of success. Breakfast was awakening. Mrs. Williams was kind, but Adora couldn't shake off the feeling that everyone in the house was watching her. After the meal, Mrs. Williams led her to the study. I want you to start school next week, Mrs. Williams said, handing her a form. You will need uniforms and books. I have made all the arrangements. Adora stared at the form in disbelief. School? She was really going to school. She took a deep breath. Thank you, ma. I won't disappoint you. Mrs. Williams smiled. I know you won't. But just as Adora left the study, a strong hand grabbed her wrist. She gasped and turned. Pamela stood there, her eyes dark with anger. Listen, fish girl, she whispered harshly. I don't know what game you are playing, but this house belongs to us. If you think you can take our place, you are making a big mistake. Adora yanked her hands free, her heart racing. I don't want to take anything from anyone. Pamela's lip coiled into a sinister smile. Good. Then make sure you stay in your place. Otherwise, you might find yourself back in the street. Adora watched as Pamela walked away, her hands trembling. This wasn't just about fitting in anymore. This was war. She has to be ready for the fight. Adora sat on the edge of the bed, staring at her hands. They smelled of smoke. No matter how many times she had washed them, the scent never left. But today, it wasn't just her hand that felt dirty. It was her heart. Pamela's word echoed in her mind. Make sure you stay in your place, otherwise you might find yourself back on the street. A sharp pain twisted in her chest. Why did life always feel like a fight? She had fought to survive after her parents died. She had fought hunger, cold nights, and cruel customers at the market. Now she had to fight again, this time against people who saw her as nothing more than a fish seller pretending to be rich. But she had made a promise to herself. She would not break, she would not run, even if it meant standing alone. Days passed and Adora tried her best to ignore the whispers and side glances. She focused on preparing for school, but no matter how hard she tried, Pamela and her friends made her life miserable. One evening, as she stepped into the bedroom, she found her only pair of shoes soaked in the toilet. She gasped, her hands flying to her mouth. Laughter rang out from behind. Pamela stood at the doorway, her arms folded, while Vanessa leaned against the wall smirking. Oops, Vanessa said mockingly. Look like someone needs a new shoe. Adora clenched her fist, her nails digging into her palm. She wanted to scream. She wanted to fight back. But what could she do? She had no money for another pair. She turned to Pamela, her voice shaking with anger. Why are you doing this? Pamela's eyes darkened. Because people like you don't belong in places like this. Adora swallowed hard. She refused to cry. She wouldn't give them that satisfaction. Without another word, she turned, walked past them and headed to her room. But the moment she closed the door, she collapsed on the floor. Her chest ached, her body trembled. But she forced herself not to cry. She wouldn't let them break her. She would rise no matter how much they tried to pull her down. The next morning, Adora was about to leave for school when she heard a knock on her door. She opened to see a young boy, about 10 years old, standing there. He had kind eyes and a small, shy smile. Good morning, Sister Ada, he said. Adora blinked in surprise. No one had called her that name before. Good morning, who are you? My name is David. I am Mrs. Williams' son. Adora's eyes widened. Mrs. Williams' son? David glanced around, then reached into his bag and pulled out a pair of brand new shoes. I saw what they did to your shoes. Mama said we must always be kind. So here. Adora stared at the shoes, her vision blurring with unshed tears. She had spent so many years fighting alone, but now someone was on her side. She knelt down and touched the boy's hand gently. Thank you, David. You don't know what this means. David smiled. Don't let them win. Then he turned and ran off. Adora clutched the shoes to her chest, her heart swelling with determination. She wasn't alone. That evening, Pamela sat on Vanessa's bed, her face twisted in anger. She's still here, she hissed. She should have left by now. Vanessa smirked. Then maybe we need to make her understand that this isn't her home. Pamela's lip coiled into a wicked smile. I have the perfect plan. She leaned in and whispered something into Vanessa's ear. Vanessa's eye widened before she burst into laughter. Oh, this is going to be fun. Adora has survived hunger. She has survived the streets. But Was she ready for the storm that was coming? Adora walked into the school that morning, her new shoes pressing against the pavement. She held her books tightly, keeping her head up, even as though she felt the weight of the whispers around her. Pamela and Vanessa sat on a bench nearby, watching her like vultures circling a dying prey. Adora ignored them. But deep inside, a dark feeling sat in her chest. They were planning something. She could feel it, and she was right. The school day passed without trouble. Too smoothly, Adora knew something was wrong, but she didn't know what. Until lunchtime, she carried her food tray to an empty seat in the cafeteria. Just as she was about to sit, a sudden loud gasp filled the air. Adora! A girl screamed. Adora turned sharply, confused. Then she smelled it, something rotten, something disgusting. She looked down. Her uniform was soaked in spoiled milk and garbage water. The cafeteria erupted in laughter. She froze. Her hands shook. Her heart pounded. From across the room, Pamela and Vanessa sat with smug smile. She smelled just like the fish she sells, Vanessa said loudly. The laughter grew louder. The humiliation burned through Adora's skin. Tears prickled her eyes, but she refused to cry. She had been through worse. Slowly, she straightened herself. Without a word, she grabbed her tray, turned around and walked towards Pamela's table. Pamela's smile faltered, but before she could react, Adora dropped the entire tray of food on Pamela's lap. The entire cafeteria gasped. Pamela shrieked, jumping to her feet as if food spilled all over her expensive uniform. Are you crazy? How dare you? Adora stared dead into her eyes. If you want war, Pamela, then I'm ready. For the first time, Pamela looked shaken. Adora turned and walked away, leaving the cafeteria in stunning silence. That night, as Adora walked into her room, a strange feeling crawled up her spine. She shut the door behind her, but something felt off. She turned and froze, a shadow in the corner of the room. Adora's breath caught in her throat. The figure stepped forward. The dim light revealed Pamela, her face twisted in fury. You think you are strong now? Pamela whispered coldly. Adora clenched her fist. What do you want, Pamela? Pamela took another step closer, her eyes filled with something dark. You don't belong here, Adora. And if you don't live on your own, we'll make sure you do. A chill ran down Adora's spine. Pamela smirked, then turned and slipped out of the room, leaving only silence behind. Adora's hands trembled. She had won a battle today, but the war had just begun. As Adora lay on the bed staring at the ceiling, Pamela's word echoed in her mind. You don't belong here, and if you don't live on your own, we'll make sure you do. A shiver ran through her. She had been through many battles in life, but something about Pamela's threat unsettled her. This wasn't just about school bullying anymore. It felt deeper, darker. Still, she refused to be afraid. She had fought to survive hunger. She had fought through so many rejection and shame. She would fight this too. But she didn't know that the fight coming her way would be more than she had ever imagined. The next day, Adora woke up determined. She got dressed, grabbed her books, and headed to school. She wouldn't let fear control her. But as she stepped outside her hostel, a voice called out, Excuse me. She turned out to see a middle-aged man standing near the gate. He wore a security uniform and had a serious expression. Are you Adora? He asked. She nodded. Yes, sir. Your guardian sent for you. She's waiting at the school clinic. Adora's heart skipped. Mrs. Williams, has something happened? Without hesitation, she turned and rushed toward the clinic. She entered the building, her breath heavy. Good morning, she greeted the nurse at the front desk. I was told my guardian is here. The nurse frowned. Your guardian? There's no one here for you. Adora's stomach dropped. What? She turned around, and that was when she saw them. Two masked figures dressed in all black rushed towards her. Before she could scream, a hand clamped over her mouth. Her books fell to the floor. The walls spun as they dragged her into the empty room and locked the door. Adora struggled, kicking and clawing, but one of them gripped her arms tightly while the other whispered in her ear, Let's see how strong you really are. They tied her hands and feet with rope, shoving her into the cold floor. Adora gasped for breath, her heartbeat pounding in her ears. Who are they? What do they want? Then one of them stepped forward and removed their masks. Adora's blood ran cold. Pamela. Pamela crouched beside her, smiling sweetly. You should have listened, Adora. Adora's eyes burned with rage. You are a coward. Pamela's smile vanished. She grabbed Adora's chin roughly. You think this is a game, she hissed. This is my school, my world. You are just a poor girl pretending to belong. Adora clenched her teeth. I belong anywhere I choose to be. Pamela's grip tightened. Not for long. She stood and turned to the other masked figure. Make sure she learns her lesson. Adora's heart pounded as the second figure stepped forward, reaching into their pocket. What were they going to do to her? Pamela smirked one last time before stepping out and locking the door behind her. Adora swallowed hard as the masked figure slowly knelt in front of her, and then they removed their masks. Adora gasped. It was Vanessa, but something was wrong. Vanessa's face was tense. Her eyes flickered with hesitation. Adora, she whispered urgently. Listen to me carefully. I'm going to help you escape. Adora's eyes widened. What? Vanessa quickly pulled out a knife from her pocket, not to hurt her but to cut the road. Why are you helping me? Adora whispered. Vanessa swallowed hard because Pamela has gone too far and I don't want to be part of this anymore. Adora's heart raced. Could she trust Vanessa? Or was this another trap? She had no time to decide. Footsteps echoed in the hallway. Pamela was coming back. Vanessa's hand trembled as she caught the last rope. Run, Adora, now! Adora didn't hesitate. She sprang to her feet and bolted towards the back door. Just as Pamela re-entered, Adora slipped out into the dark night. Pamela's furious scream echoed behind her. She ran and ran, her breath ragged, her feet pounding the pavement. Tears burned her eyes. Her body ached. But she didn't stop. She didn't stop. Because she finally understood something. This wasn't just bullying. Pamela wanted to destroy her, and Adora had to find a way to fight back before it was too late. Adora ran through the street, her breath ragged, her feet pounding the cold pavement. The fear of what almost happened still clung to her like a shadow, but she kept moving. She had escaped Pamela's trap, but the scars of her struggle ran deeper that one night of terror. She had no family to run to, only a tiny hostel room with a creak bed and fading walls. She was an orphan, a girl who had fought her way through poverty and ridicule just to survive. But she wasn't just a survivor, she was a fighter. The next morning, whispers filled the school. Pamela's cruel scheme had been exposed. Vanessa has confessed everything, and the evidence was undeniable. By noon, Pamela was expelled. The once powerful bully was no longer a queen. And Adora, she stood tall, not as a victim, but as a girl who had faced darkness and refused to be swallowed by it. But her battle wasn't just against Pamela. Her real fight was against fate itself. With Pamela gone, Adora threw herself into her studies. She had no safety net, no family to fall back to, only the kindness of Mrs. Williams, the woman who had taken her under her wings, but no one else did. Mrs. Williams saw something in her, a fire that refused to be put out. You are more than where you came from, Adora, she told her one evening as they sat in her office. Your past does not define you. Your actions do. Adora held on to her words like a lifeline. She worked harder than anyone else, spending long nights under the dim hostel lamp, studying until her eyes ached. She refused to be another orphan lost in the crack of the world, and her efforts paid off. Years passed, and Adora graduated as the best student in her school. Her result was so outstanding that she was awarded a scholarship to study abroad. The poor orphan girl who once sold fish in the market was now on a plane to the future she had built with her own hands. At university, Adora studied business and entrepreneurship with one goal in mind: to break the circle of poverty. She didn't just want success for herself, she wanted to create opportunities for others like her, children who has been abandoned by fate but still had fire in their hearts. She graduated at the top of her class, and instead of working for others, she started her own company. With every business deal, every success, she had proved to the world that where you come from does not determine where you can go. She built a multi-million-dollar company, employing hundreds of people. She became a name that commanded respect, not because of wealth alone, but because of the wisdom, strength, and resilience that defined her. She was no longer Adora, the poor orphan girl. She was Adora, the woman who rose from nothing to become something. One day, Adora returned home, not to the hostel where she once slept hungry, but to the school where her journey began. She stood at the grand stage, facing hundreds of students who sat where she once had. Some of them were just like her, poor, lost, and afraid. She cleared her throat and spoke, her voice filled with strength of all battles she had won. Life will test you, it will break you, it will make you feel small. But let me tell you this, your struggles do not define you. Your past does not own you. You are not limited by what others think of you. The only thing that truly matters is what you believe about yourself. I believed I was more than an orphan. I believed I was more than the girl who smelled like the smoke and fish. And because I believe, I fought, and because I fought, I won. So fight for yourself. fight for your dreams, and one day, I promise you, you will stand here, not as someone who was pitied, but as someone who rose beyond all odds. The auditorium erupted into applause, but Adora's eyes searched for only one person, Mrs. Williams, the woman who had seen her when no one else saw. Dora walked towards her and knelt down, tears brimming in her eyes. "Thank you," she whispered. "You changed my life." Mrs. Williams smiled, pulling her into an embrace. "No, Adora," she said softly. "You changed your life." Adora returned to her mansion that evening, where her husband and children waited for her. She had a family of her own now, a home filled with warmth, love, and laughter. She had gone from an orphan with nothing to a woman who had everything. And so she tucked her children into bed that night. She whispered the same words that had carried her through her hardest days. No matter how dark the night was, the sun will always rise.